Welcome back to the Bleacher Preacher podcast. It's NBA Day. The most popular sport in the country is back, and we can't wait to talk about the preview. It's Johnny Boy here, and I'm with Rob.
What up?
Rob, NBA season, NBA Twitter, the shenanigans, the pettiness, the dunks, the Splash Brothers, everything is back. I want to get this right out of the way. Do you think basketball, specifically the NBA, is the most popular sport in America right now?
In America, yes, 100%.
Would you call it the fastest growing sport in the world?
In the world, no.
Okay.
Well, fastest growing, yes, because football is already established. Football with you is already established. I would say growing, yeah. Fastest growing sport, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw there was an article published recently about the NBA officially taking over the United States, dethroning football as the tier sport. I'm on the fence about the issue right now. I still think football is the edge because they still own a day of the week. But the NBA right now is making strides of owning, 2-3 nights a week, and star power is as deep as it ever was. Teams are looking stronger. There's a new competitive balance, not so much in the East, but we'll get to that later. Needless to say, though, I'm excited to have the NBA back, Rob. I'm sure you feel the same. Let's get started with the Eastern Conference preview. Me and Rob are going to run through the teams 15 through 1 in the East and the West. Apologies to some fan bases of teams if we don't give you the love you think or not take as much time with you guys. We're going to try and be as objective as possible. And mind you, I'm doing this in a Boston basketball t-shirt, so I'll pump the brakes when need be. But let's get started with number 15, Rob. Who do we have as last in the Eastern Conference this year?
Atlanta. I have Atlanta last. So Atlanta's in a rebuilding year, you would say. A rebuilding time period. I don't think Atlanta's going to be relevant for the next 5 years, I want to say. It might have been – this might be the draft where it shapes the next 5 years of Atlanta. Trading away Luka Doncic and picking Trae Young. Trae Young could be the next Jimmer Fredette. Trae Young could be the next Steph Curry. We don't know. That's the biggest thing, having Trae Young in the building, having Trae Young grow. John Collins is there. John Collins is good. Other than that, it's really who can you get for Kent Bazemore on the trade block? Who can you get for Jeremy Lin on the trade block? That is all that Atlanta is there for. It's a feeder team to the playoffs, and they're just rebuilding. That's it for Atlanta. They had the good run with the 4 or 5 All-Stars and the 60-win team and all that. They just, it's over, and it sucks for Atlanta sports, but that's just, how it is in the NBA. You're going to go through periods where you need to rebuild and get more assets, and that's where we're at with Atlanta.
And I think when you mentioned the Doncic trade for Atlanta, a lot of people thought, if you're a team like Atlanta that doesn't have a real identity, not a lot going for you, that's someone you would almost take a risk on because it's already a lost season. So I think time's only really going to tell the true winner of that trade. For Atlanta, Coach Bud is out, so it's a whole new regime in Atlanta. Not really expecting much out of them, like you said, except Trae Young. I think he's going to be an exciting player, but like you said, it's that basement and ceiling that really intrigues a lot of people, because for someone who was such a volume scorer in college, we haven't really seen that translate to the NBA as well. And with the minimal support he's going to have, he's going to be putting up 20, 25 shots almost every single night.
Yeah, and we'll see if him taking 30-foot jump shots or, just off the dribble, 5 seconds off the clock, 30-foot jump shots. He might make some on some nights, and he goes crazy and he gets 35. And some nights he might shoot 3 of 15 and have 10 points. We're gonna go through the growing pains. They should try to lose as many games as possible, get that number 1 pick, and try to get another blue chip guy next to Trae Young to help him stand out. Moving on, I have Orlando 14. Orlando is the most frustrating team in the past 10 years. All these high draft picks, all these talents that have come in and out of Orlando. Victor Oladipo has come in and out of Orlando. Nikola Vucevic is a good player. Now they have Mo Bamba, Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac. Like there's so much talent that has been in Orlando. It's just Orlando never puts it together. And now we have where they can throw out a lineup where Jonathan Simmons, Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaacs, and Mo Bama's on the floor, and they could literally go basket to basket, touching each other's hands. That's that much wingspan is on the floor, so they're going to be exciting up and down, going up and down the court, playing defense, using their length, but they're going to have a ton of growing pains, and that's just Orlando. It's just a frustrating team in the past 10 years.
And I think with Orlando, it's going to be patience and getting guys on the right spot. We had actually mentioned on one of our very first NBA podcasts, Orlando's roster never makes sense. Like, guys are never either supported the right way or playing completely out of position. And that, I think, what makes them so infuriating is because there's basketball talent there. And this is going to be year 2 with Frank Vogel. So maybe there's going to be some progress. I don't know. But things just don't look bright right now in Orlando. Thank God they brought back the nice jerseys.
Yeah, so I like Mo Bamba. He's going to be great. I think Nikola Vucevic is probably going to get traded, and he's going to end up being like an Enes Kanter type of role. When Enes Kanter was on the Thunder, have somebody that'll come off the bench that can score in the low post, grab some rebounds. Vucevic will help a playoff team out. Mo Bamba should be starting at the 5. Aaron Gordon should be starting at the 4. We say this every year. Aaron Gordon should not play small forward. He should be a stretch 4. He should be playing pick and roll, and he should be rim running. And then he should be pushing the ball up the floor off rebounds. And every year, they play him as small forward. Like, he really should not play at the 3. He should be a 4 and only a 4. Jonathan Isaacs can come off the bench, play the 4 and the 5, and that's a nice little nucleus. But it's always been frustrating watching Orlando.
Extremely frustrating, but again, let's see what the future holds. They could be another sell at the trade deadline. We could see Aaron Gordon find somewhere new. They just need to find direction and commit to it, but at least some decent young pieces in place, and I think they'll be okay. Number 13, Rob.
So number 13, I have New York.
The New York Knicks. Again, free agency pipe dreams not really translating to on-court success. There were reports in the offseason Kyrie was considering the Knicks in free agency with a team up with Jimmy Butler. You can't necessarily rule it out yet, though Kyrie has already said he plans on returning to Boston in the offseason. But as for this season, though, not a lot has changed for the Knicks. Kristaps could be out the entire season. The best case scenario comes back post All-Star break, but by then the Knicks will, if things go as planned, will be clearly out of the playoff run. So you don't really want to rush back your one true piece right now. And Kevin Knox, right?
Yep, Kevin Knox, the rookie out of Kentucky.
Yeah, he looks nice. He had a pretty good summer league performance and has shown some flashes in preseason as well. So him going with what I call French Frank Ntilikina. Did I get that right?
Ntilikina. Yeah, I think it's spelled Ntilikina.
He's French Frank, but New York has some, again, kind of like Orlando. Pieces are in place, but still some ways away. The New York media and New York fans will always dream of having free agency rescue them again, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, and I don't think we'll be getting playoff Madison Square Garden for quite some time.
Yeah, it's just another rebuilding year. Kevin Knox needs minutes. Mitchell Robinson, their other rookie, I like a lot. High energy, 7'1", good rebounder. He can be a game changer. He can be a piece at center, moving towards the future. Just get Kristaps healthy. Get Ntilikina another year under his belt. Knox a year. Get Mitchell Robinson a year, and try to get a top 5 pick, get a Cameron Reddish, get a Zion Williams or an RJ Barrett, somebody in that nature, and go after somebody in free agency. New York is still New York. Madison Square Garden is still Madison Square Garden. The mystique is still there. If they sign a Kyrie and a Jimmy, the mystique is still there, and the Knicks can always be the Knicks. That's never going to change. It's just like the Lakers in the Western Conference. The Lakers could be bad for a couple years, but that New York Knicks fan base is still going to support them and still going to talk about how good that they can be and the attraction that the Knicks are. So really, it's just a lost year. Now I have them finishing 13th, but the last 5 spots in the East, I feel like it's only like a game separating them all. Atlanta, Orlando, The Knicks, I think like they're all gonna win less than 30 games, and it depends who tanks harder. So we'll see.
What just a last thought on the Knicks. What would you put the percentage chance of KD ending up on the Knicks next season?
I have it at a 50% chance.
50.
Yeah. So the theory that the working theory that I have right now is that KD leaves Golden State after another championship, which frees up the money for Golden State to re-sign Clay to the Supermax. Clay and Steph gets the Supermax, Draymond gets the Max, and KD goes to different pastures and gets his own team. You know, he did the whole let me go win a couple championships, and he's probably going to win 3. And now he's going to go on his own team and we're pretty much ride out the rest of his prime.
He's going to follow the LeBron path. He, secured his legacy, with a different team, and now he's going to go grow his brand. So why not do it in the – could you imagine KD living back in New York City, though, and going to Rucker Park like every Monday or like Sunday night and just dropping 60 again?
Just shooting, yeah.
By far, the best summer of the NBA is when there was no basketball.
That was my working theory is he's either going to the Knicks or he's going back to OKC. Those are my working theories right now for Durant.
We will have Durant watch, trust me. Team number 12, Rob, who do you got?
Chicago.
So the Bulls, who tried tanking last year, somehow were winning games in stretches, which was the most infuriating thing for a Bulls fan like Rob. But then things kind of plateaued a little bit. Then team kind of spiraled. Lost his star.
I'll tell you what happened. Nikola Mirotic came back from a broken face and then started hitting threes and on like a non-sustainable clip. And then they won like 10 games in a row. And then they traded Mirotic and then they started losing again. So I think it was Nikola Mirotic coming back and just like putting a spark in Chicago for some reason. But Chicago is just another lost year. Zach LaVine's going to be back to 100%. You got to make sure he gets minutes. Got to make sure he's healthy and he's a piece moving forward. This is the Jabari year. Chris Dunn is a nice young point guard, but Chris Dunn is not your top 10 point guard. I don't think Chris Dunn is ever going to be a top 10 point guard. I think Chris Dunn is more your middle of the pack, 15 to 20. Your Jeff Teagues of the world. I think that's Chris Dunn's ceiling. He's still going to be a good defensive point guard. And it's just the 2 young bigs that they got to develop. I think Robin Lopez is going to get traded. Wendell Carter is going to get a lot of minutes at center. Lauri Markkanen when he comes back. He's going to be a starting power forward. Bobby Portis. There's a lot of young guys, but there's no really star. There's not that one star on the team. And I think Chicago is still a good free agent destiny. I think it's going to be an Anthony Davis sweepstakes. The Chicago boy, Anthony Davis. I think that's who they're going to go hard after. But other than that, just gotta develop the young guys, play good basketball, and hope they get a star in the draft or a star in free agent or trade for Anthony Davis. Not much in Chicago.
Kind of like New York. There's pieces there, but it's going to be a little bit of a long road. I know you being a Bulls fan, it was frustrating to watch a good core slowly fall apart, starting with the Derrick Rose injury back in 2012. And now here we are 2018, and they're already rebuilding, towards something completely different. Again, basketball is, I think, better when a team like the Bulls are relevant. So hopefully they are back in the mix here pretty soon.
Yeah, so that's another one of those bottom tier teams. I'm going to lump Chicago in with Atlanta, Orlando, and the Knicks and Chicago. I don't think there's going to be much separating them. Team 11, I think, is your separation from the bottom of the conference to a team that might fight for the playoffs, and that's Cleveland. I have Cleveland at 11.
Really? So Cleveland, who, they lose LeBron. Well, let's just be honest about it. They lose LeBron, and we made the jokes last year on this very podcast that Cleveland is nothing without LeBron, and now we're going to see it for a whole season. Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, Larry Nance Jr., Channing Frye, some other pieces around. I just don't see how this team is really competitive. I was actually surprised you had them this high.
Well, they're 11, so they're not really that high. They're still missing playoffs by a wide margin. It's just with the East, there's a lot of teams that are going to have off nights. There's a lot of dweller basement teams. you're going to get your money, you're going to get your wins off of. I like Colin Sexton. He is very, very competitive. I love what he brings. Jordan Clarkson, there's a time and place where Jordan Clarkson, J.R. Smith, guys like that, Chetty Osman, that might contribute. I'm banking on them doing it together at one game, one time, eking out a win somehow against like a middle tier team like a Detroit or like an Indiana or something like that. Kevin Love is still a top 30 player in the league. Tristan Thompson is helpful in certain areas, I guess. There's not much to say about Cleveland, but I still think Cleveland's better than an Atlanta or a New York or Orlando or Chicago just because they have Kevin Love, and I think Kevin Love's the best player out of those 5 teams. I don't think they win. I don't think they finish above 500. I think they win 37 games as their peak and their ceiling. So it's just, back to the dark age of no LeBron for Cleveland.
Well, it's funny you say the dark age because you look at the first post-LeBron era, that team was I believe, back-to-back lottery winners, correct?
Yeah, they got Kyrie. They got Deion Waiters with what is it, like the 5th pick? Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett. They had 3 number 1 overall picks, and they have Thompson. Yeah, Tristan Thompson was a number 4 pick. So all they have to show from that is Tristan Thompson.
Yes, and it's funny because you want to say they didn't manage the roster correctly, but they still got that one title out of it, and I know it's a lot to kind of like balance out, but they got their one.
Yeah, if you're Cleveland, you have that one title. You had LeBron James for what is it like 10 out of his 14 years in the league. What was he? 03, 15 years. So 10 out of the 15 years in the league, you've had LeBron, and you got a title out of him, and you had multiple final appearances out of him. You really can't complain. You can't complain for the next 5-10 years, and that's your chance to rebuild. So we'll see with Cleveland. I don't have much more or much to expect out of Cleveland, but they're there, I guess.
I look back at Cleveland, and especially this past season, and it was funny. Me and you would watch some games together, and we would look up, and I think it was a Saturday afternoon game where Oklahoma City scored like 80 in the first half, and we're thinking like, are they even trying on defense, or like what's going on here?
Yeah, Terrence Ferguson was running down courts doing windmills and stuff. Like,
I don't know if they corrected the hustle and the effort there. I don't know if they're going to become more prideful, or they actually got to play with more of a purpose. So I'm not going to watch a ton of Cavaliers basketball, but that's something at least to keep an eye on to see, is this team even going to give a damn?
It's going to be a lot of talent rating in Cleveland. I think J.R. Smith can help a playoff team. I think Tristan Thompson can help a playoff team. It's just Tristan Thompson's cost a little bit too much.
Who's going to take a lot of those contracts?
Yeah, the contracts is what is going to hold this team down for the next couple of years. But I still think like there's still pieces on that team that can help a playoff team that somebody might come. It's like, hey, we'll take JR. Here's a 2nd round pick. He costs too much, so you're not getting a first, but here's a 2nd round pick for your troubles to give us JR. So, I mean, we might see some talent rating, but I don't expect much from Cleveland. Next team.
10.
Oh, go ahead. You have any finishing thoughts on Cleveland?
Nah.
All right, so next team, Charlotte at 10. Just barely missing the playoffs.
And I think that's kind of been the theme for the Charlotte Hornets now, since they became the Hornets again, is they just haven't been good enough to get into the playoffs. I know how much you love Kemba Walker, but I don't think any of their draft picks have really panned out to help him out. Frank Kaminsky hasn't been anything special.
Cody Zeller hasn't been anything special.
I was going to say they have a Zeller, I think.
Yeah.
Somehow Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is 26, I think. 25, 26.
He came out the same draft as Anthony Davis, and him and Anthony Davis are the same age. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and Anthony Davis, they were both freshmen.
I look at Kidd-Gilchrist, and I know he had a I think it was a labrum issue a few years ago, and he couldn't shoot before then. So his offensive abilities have just never grown. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, we talked about Kemba possibly, being moved, and Charlotte has been adamant saying, no, we're holding on to him. He's our piece. I just don't see it with this team, and it's been frustrating because Kemba's been good, and I think it was last season. Yeah, last season they draft Malik Monk, who was going to be, a solid, 2 or 3 option, and he struggled at times too. So this is another one of those rosters where I just don't see it happening quite yet.
I do have them finishing outside the playoffs, but I do like certain parts of the team. So the starting 5 is going to be Nick Batum, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Marvin Williams, Cody Zeller, and Kemba Walker. Now, when those guys got drafted, like when Cody Zeller was a top 5 pick, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist was a top 5 pick, Marvin Williams was a top 5 pick, Kemba Walker is probably the best player on this team, best player in this franchise history, maybe. You probably say maybe Baron Davis if you're going back to the old Charlotte Hornets or Larry Johnson, but Kemba Walker has enough time and enough years and enough moments in that uniform where he might have a stake as the best player in franchise history. Now, that being said, I like Malik Monk. I like Miles Bridges, the draft pick this year. Jeremy Lamb's still there as well. I mean, there's talent on the team. It's just you can't really go far with Kemba Walker being your star player. You need Kemba Walker plus somebody. Kemba Walker plus Anthony Davis will make this a playoff team. Kemba Walker plus Jimmy Butler will make this a playoff team. Kemba plus Kawhi will make this like a very talented team. They just don't have that second star to pair with Kemba Walker. And that's where they failed since having Kemba Walker is finding a star to pair with him.
And I think it's funny is, you said Anthony Davis or Jimmy Butler would make this a playoff team. They make a lot of teams a playoff team, which is kind of where I'm in the inclination of we need to free Kemba almost, or they need to make a major splash. Probably one of the weirdest moves though in the offseason was Tony Parker signing with the Hornets. Do you think this is anything for him?
I forgot Tony Parker was on that team.
I know, it's so forgettable.
Like there's a collection of talent. Tony Parker's gonna play 15 minutes a game and spell Kemba and be a good locker room guy, a good leader, good veteran presence. But this isn't Tony Parker from 2007, so I don't see much. This was just his last payday before he retires. Honestly,
can you blame the guy? I think him and Nick Batum are really good friends from when they were on the French national team. No.
Yeah, probably. Can we get a Boris Diaw reunion? I heard Boris Diaw is on a ship somewhere sailing the world.
I was gonna say I saw something like once he retired he was gonna go become like a wine connoisseur somewhere, but now he's gonna go like live out his life.
Yeah, I like Legolas at the end of Lord of the Rings when he like built a ship and then went to go sail the world. Like that's Boris Diaw right now. Boris Diaw is literally sailing the world in a ship, which that must be the life. Like I'm jealous of Boris Diaw.
Well, this may come as no surprise. Along with Game of Thrones, I have not seen any of the Lord of the Ring movies. All right, team number 9.
Brooklyn. So I have the Nets finishing 9th.
So it's funny with Brooklyn. They finally got the draft picks back. Sorry, Billy King. Brooklyn has made like a habit of bringing in players and contracts that other teams just want to get rid of or kind of cast it off. And they've always, since they did that roster purge and draft pick purge, they were always, bottom feeders. They didn't really have much to look forward to. Well, towards the end of last season, I was starting to see something in the Brooklyn Nets I really liked. D'Angelo Russell was healthy and coming on strong. Spencer Dinwiddie came out of absolutely nowhere. And the center, Jared Allen, actually exploded into a decent post presence too. So Brooklyn, I know, doesn't have, name-breaking talent, but I think they can actually be competitive this year and give some teams some problems just by how hard they've been able to play the past couple of games. I'm not expecting much from them this season, but at the same time, they got nothing to lose. And granted, they could lose more and actually get a decent draft pick and a decent asset now. But I think they're going in the right direction.
I would not be surprised if Brooklyn wins 38, 40 games and sneaks into the playoffs. You don't have to win. You don't have to be 500 to make the playoffs in the East. I think somebody might win 40 games. I honestly think somebody might finish 40 and 42 and make the playoffs as the 8th seed, and that might be Brooklyn. I love Spencer Dinwiddie. I love Karis LeVert. I love Rondé Hollis Jefferson. I love Jared Allen. There's a ton of guys on that team that like I love the way they play. They hustle. They play hard. I love their coach Kenny Atkinson. They just like that hard-nosed, gritty team that just needs a star. I don't think that star is going to be D'Angelo Russell. I think D'Angelo Russell, I don't want to say a bust, but he's not going to live up to being the number 3 draft pick. Um, I mean, the guy drafted ahead of him, the center, Jahlil Okafor, it sometimes you're drafted too high, and I guess D'Angelo Russell, he's not going to live up to that number 3 draft pick, but that's fine. He's still a good scorer. He'll get you 20 a night. He just, I don't think he needs to change the scenery. I just think he needs to put it all together. He hasn't put it all together yet, and I don't know if he does it with Brooklyn. I don't have high hopes that he might ever put it all together, but he's still talented.
No, and I think that's when the Lakers decided to move on from Russell. That was going to be his change of scenery. Like, we're going to give you this fresh start and everything. And he's had flashes, and I think that's one thing to his credit. He has raw talent. He's not a volume scorer or a volume assist guy. He does everything pretty good. So he's a good piece for Brooklyn. But, to your point earlier, if they somehow get a hold of a Jimmy Butler or another one of these pending free agents, or are able to have a decent star fall into their lap, they could make some noise.
Yeah, definitely. The next team, we're going to move on to the team that I have in the 8th seed making the playoffs, Detroit.
So with Detroit, you have Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, and what I looked at this roster, not a whole lot else to get excited about. I know Reggie Jackson was I don't want to say marquee or like a big signing, but someone Detroit brought in a few seasons ago, but he hasn't really put together since he got there. Luke Kennard is now going to be linked as the guy who was drafted before Donovan Mitchell. They get rid or Stan Van Gundy finally exit out. They bring in Dwayne Casey, who had a solid run up in Toronto. So I look at Detroit. I think they'll be good enough to win some games, but I think that's just what the 8th seed in the East is. It's like, okay, you're here. Now you're going to have to play one of the top teams.
Yeah, if you're Detroit, you're going to be 40-ish wins, and you're going to make the playoffs, and you got to play the number 1 seed, whether that be Boston or Toronto, and that's not where you want to be. Like, you don't have prime Blake Griffin. You have an aging Blake Griffin on his last legs. Andre Drummond is good, but he's never going to be a Dwight Howard level guy that's going to take your team to an Eastern Conference Finals like Dwight Howard was with Orlando. Reggie Jackson is the point guard that was jettisoned out of OKC. He wasn't the point guard you wanted out of OKC, but you're stuck with Reggie Jackson. He's not a like I said, the Jeff Teague tier point guards, the 15 to 20. That's what Reggie Jackson is. Luke Kennard is fake JJ Redick. I mean, that's you have some talent. Stanley Johnson hasn't improved since he's been in the NBA. Can he defend? Sure. Can he run the floor? Sure. Is he still young? Yes. Still can't shoot. Handball handling, passing, still not there. He's a body. There's some talent there, because I think with Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson and Blake Griffin, that's more talent than Brooklyn. That's it's more talent than Charlotte. That's more talent than Chicago. So they're just talented enough to be the 8th seed, but that's not really what you want if you're Detroit, just to be talented enough to be a first round sweep.
And I think when you mentioned Blake Griffin being on his last leg, is he didn't really look explosive the past couple of seasons. You see him settling for mid-range jumpers and like kind of finessing his way to the basket. So he's definitely a far cry from what he was in Los Angeles as the high flyer, highlight reel dunk guy. So I just don't know really much more we can expect from Blake at this point in his career. And my point about Andre Drummond, do you think he can keep up shooting his free throws in the high 40s, low 50s this year?
I mean, I guess he's never going to be anything more than that. I mean, guys last year, like Clint Capella, learned how to shoot free throws. DeAndre Jordan's become a better free throw shooter. Whatever they did over the offseason to become a better free throw shooter, they need to pass along to Andre Drummond.
And I just don't see it really making a difference, because today's NBA is about spacing and being able to shoot, and that's just never been in Drummond's repertoire.
Yeah, he's, like I said, he's never going to be Dwight Howard. Orlando, when Orlando made the Eastern Conference Finals with Dwight Howard and a whole bunch of shooters, Andre Drummond is never going to be as good as Dwight Howard then. And, that's what Detroit is stuck with, fake Dwight Howard. Moving on.
Number 7.
Number 7, Washington.
So the Washington Wizards, John Wall decided to grow out his hair and looks like he's been going through it a little bit. They bring in Dwight Howard. It's funny, we are just talking about him. And Bradley Beal is coming off his first All-Star appearance. We looked at Washington last year as a team that could have been, a real competitor in the East, but they just never really caught on. And they actually started winning some games when John Wall was out for a little bit of time, and it just amounted to a playoff sweep. So with Washington, they don't, again, change much. So what can we really expect from them?
Like I said with Detroit, they're just more talented than the other teams, but they're not as good that they're going to move on to the next round. They're just going to be 4-0, 4-1, and done in the first round. John Wall, Bradley Beal, Oubre, Otto Porter, A. Morris, Dwight Howard, that's a good top 6. That's talented than half. That's more talented than half the teams in the East. But you're not going to get home court. You're not going to get home court unless John Wall turns into Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal turns into Klay Thompson, and that's not going to happen. Otto Porter turns into fake KD and Kelly Oubre becomes like a glue guy. That's not going to happen, and you can't really blow it up. So they're just stuck with what they have, trying to add some pieces here or there, and maybe get lucky in free agency or the draft. And it's not there. It's just a middling team.
And I think we saw them put a lot of their eggs in the KD basket a few off seasons ago, where they thought they could reunite Kevin Durant with, his hometown of Washington, D.C., and Scott Brooks. And, it's going to be him, Bradley Beal, John Wall. They were going to be the new big three in the East. And after coming up empty on that, they never really had another plan to go forward. So I just haven't been impressed by Washington lately. John Wall looks lazy at times. He just doesn't seem interested. And I know there have been reports of a dissension between him and Bradley Beal, but sometimes it speaks on the floor. It's like what we were thought these two were best friends. They just stopped getting along. And, me and you have kicked around the idea of who would you rather have or who would you trade and what would they bring back in return. So maybe Washington needs to really consider what they want to do with their roster here and kind of look themselves in the mirror and think, well, how far is this really going to take us? And do we want to end up as one of those basement dwelling teams?
This is one of the teams where they should have went all in on Kawhi. The Wizards should have took a Brad Beal or a John Wall. And they really should have went to San Antonio and was like, hey, who do you want for Kawhi? That's what the Wizards should have done, was gone after a Kawhi or gone after a Kyrie or somebody like that in the trade and try to, remake their roster. But they're stuck in their ways. They didn't make their rosters, and they're going to pay for it by just being the 7th seed and having pick number 18 and, not finding a superstar. That's just all you're going to get with Washington. Moving on, number 6, Miami. Miami, number 6.
So with Miami, I've always kind of liked their makeup. They always find a way to bring in these long, athletic guys who they might not be polished in some areas, but they compete, and they're hard to score against. And I think that's what Miami's kind of running back again. Goran Dragic, I think, finally got his due as being an all-star last season. Granted, it was a replacement, but he finally got in the game that he deserved. Josh Richardson, you really like I really like what he brings to the table as well. But this big story with Miami this year is the Dwayne Wade farewell tour. It's kind of crazy to think, slowly but surely that 2003 draft class is going away. And, it was him, Chris Bosh, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James. And now here we are.
Nick Collison.
It's just crazy to think how this has all passed us by. And now Dwayne Wade, will be hanging him up at the end of this year. Before we get too much into the Miami Heat, I just want to ask you one question about Dwayne Wade is, where do you think he ranks amongst all-time shooting guards?
Is Oscar Robertson a point guard or a shooting guard?
Point guard.
So then Michael, Kobe, Dwayne Wade. Michael, Kobe, Dwayne Wade. I think he probably is the third. But is AI a shooting guard or a point guard?
AI's got to be a point guard. I'm sorry. He was the primary ball handler.
Yeah, true, but years, it was AI as a 2 guard with like Eric Snow as the point. You could convince me AI. If AI is on the 2 guard list, I think I'd take AI over Dwayne Wade. I think I'd take Dwayne Wade over Vince Carter. I think I'd take Dwayne Wade over Tracy McGrady. I'd take Dwayne Wade over Rip. I'd take Dwayne Wade over Joe Dumars. I'd take Dwayne Wade over Jerry West. I'd take Dwayne Wade over John Havlicek. I take Dwayne Wade over Mitch Richmond. I take Dwayne Wade over Chris Mullin. Take Dwayne Wade over Reggie Miller. What other 2 guards are out there? Doug Christie? Nope. Doug Christie probably doesn't even make the top 52 guards. Take Dwayne Wade over Jason Richardson. Take Dwayne Wade over Brandon Roy. There's not much 2 guards in the history of the game that I don't take Dwayne over. I take Dwayne Wade over Jimmy Butler. I take Dwayne Wade over James Harden. I take Dwayne Wade over Klay Thompson.
Well, I think needless to say, Dwayne Wade is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Probably one of the most unique talent sets we've seen out of an NBA guard. His ability to slash to the basket and then just be absolutely lethal on his finishes. Multiple titles, easy decorated career. So we're going to miss Dwayne Wade. We hope he gets a nice send-off this year. But back to the rest of Miami Heat. Do you have any realistic expectations for them again?
I think they're more Washington than Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, as in they're more bottom of the pack than top of the division. If they fight for home court, sure, I see it, but I think they're going to be fighting for their playoff lives more than they are going to be fighting for home court. I like Bam Adebayo. He's going to be solid. Justice Winslow, if he learns how to shoot, he's going to be great. Right now, he's just a good defender, a good hustle guy, like James Johnson. Tyler Johnson's making way too much money to what he's actually worth. Josh Richardson, I love. If they trade for Jimmy Butler, this team is going to look a lot better. But we'll see. This might be a Jimmy Butler trade destination.
What do you think was the package that eventually was in play, or that was in place, but Miami eventually said no because Minnesota was asking for too much?
I think it was Josh Richardson and a first-round pick, and Miami offered Josh Richardson first-round pick for Jimmy Butler, but Minnesota wanted them to take Gorgui Dieng's $16 million a year, which that's a lot of money for Gorgui Dieng. Keep getting them checks, Gorgui Dieng. That's all we got to say.
I remember when he was still at Louisville, and Louisville had a game at UNLV, and I watched this man walk through the tunnel, come around a corner, and completely ate it over his own feet. And I'm thinking, how is this guy a 5-star Louisville recruit? And they went on to post double-double against UNLV, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I really
number 5.
Yeah, number 5.
Number 5, Indiana Pacers. I was thinking Indianapolis Colts for some reason.
The Indiana Pacers. So we get Victor Oladipo's breakout season last year, which was a pleasant surprise. Good to see him finally put it all together because I've always liked his game going back to his days as an Indiana Hoosier. They give Miles Turner. Yeah, Miles Turner?
Yeah, Miles Turner.
Okay, Miles Teller is the actor. Okay, I got
it. Miles Teller is the actor.
Miles Turner gets a nice little payday here right before the season starts. So looks like Indiana's investing in this core, but we saw them give Cleveland a good push last season, push them all the way to a Game 7, but ultimately fell short. They run back pretty much the same core. So can we expect Indiana to make another playoff run here?
I think they're more bottom dwellers than they're more pretenders than contenders. They're better than Miami. They're better than Washington, but I don't think that they are in the league of Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, Philly. I like Oladipo. I like Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis is really, really good. I like Miles Turner. Tyreek Evans is now on this team. Doug McDermott is now on this team. Their point guards is Darren Collison. Darren Collison and Corey Joseph, not really ideal, but I guess it works. There's a lot of good players on the team, It's just how far can you really go with Victor Oladipo being your best player? You
I
know,
think
Charlotte doesn't go anywhere with Kemba being the best player. How far is Indiana going to go with Oladipo being the best player?
they really wrote home the notion of team basketball, and you kind of look back to the Grizzlies when they were during their run, how they were very keen on being very gritty, very hard to score on, just guys giving effort up and down the floor. So I don't know if that formula is really going to translate to success nowadays. That's just the sense I get from Indiana. And like I said, outside of Oladipo, there's no really big names that are going to jump out at you. They're just kind of banking on running back last year's success and then adding some guys that may have had some upside somewhere else. So I think Indiana will be good. That's going to be a team that's not really going to beat themselves too many nights. Probably towards the bottom of a league pass ranking because, again, there's just not a lot of excitement or buzz that comes from an Indiana Pacers team. And after we thought, losing Paul George a couple seasons ago, like this team was going to be destined to, not really live up to much. So I was happy to see them, kind of turn it around really quickly and, make the playoffs and be a tough out. So maybe they can do it again. Who knows?
Yeah, so moving on, number 4, home court, Milwaukee. I expect big things out of Milwaukee. My pick for MVP this year is Giannis. That's all I got to say. Milwaukee. I think Giannis is going to average 30, 10, 5, block and a steal.
Well, getting a real coach is going to help because Joe Prunty was absolutely useless. I don't think there was any excuse for Milwaukee not to beat Boston in the first round last year. The Celtics were down, obviously, Gordon Hayward for their whole season, but they didn't have Kyrie Irving. So that was Milwaukee's chance to really break out and for Giannis to really become a mainstay in the NBA as far as, superstardom. So I still think he's on that way. His talent, I think, is sky high. A lot of people expect him to make the leap this year. You're giving him MVP. I think he's going to be right in the middle of it. So I don't know if Milwaukee is going to, make the same mistakes they made last year. They changed out the coach. They got Eric Bledsoe the hell up out of there with his passive aggressive attitudes and demeanor. So I think Milwaukee will be another tough team to contend with. There's nobody in the NBA that can defend it. Giannis, good luck if you can. I know some teams only hope to contain him or, maybe he decides to have an off night. But once he starts developing that outside shot, good luck. That's all I can say is the NBA.
He's taken a lot of threes in preseason. He's made a lot of them. He's never going to be he's not going to be a spot up 3-point guy. He's not going to be a pull up 3-point guy. But when he comes down the court, it takes 2 steps for him to get from the 3-point line to a dunk. Half a dribble, 2 steps, and he's there to dunk the ball. So a lot of guys, they're going to be on their heels. They're going to be backing up, and he's able to walk into his threes. If he's able to do that consistently and walk into and hit a couple of threes where guys have to check him, as soon as he crosses half court and guys have to check him, he's going to get a lot of blow-by opportunities. He's going to get a lot of posters. He's going to dunk on a lot of people. And he averaged 26 and 10 last year without a 3-point shot. He adds 1-3 a game. He's gonna break 30 easy. Like, this man is ridiculous. He's put on more muscle this offseason. He's gotten bigger. He's adding a 3-point shot. He's the future of the league. Whenever LeBron wants to stop being the best player in the league, Giannis is probably going to be the best player in the league.
To the other players on the Milwaukee Bucks, it's not that we don't like you. It's just that your best player is a transcendent talent, and we've never seen someone built like him before. I do like Chris Middleton. He was a absolute lethal knockdown shooter in the playoffs last year, and one of those players that when you go to Milwaukee, you never really hear much out of him. But I think he'll be a solid contributor, and I'm going to look to the rest of Milwaukee's team to kind of actually help Giannis out. Jabari Parker's no longer there, so it kind of was a bust for Milwaukee to not get that true superstar out of him. But in turn, they got Giannis, so I think Milwaukee they can make some noise in the East. Don't rule it out yet. So
Yeah, the starting five with Malcolm Brogdon, a rookie of the year, Chris Middleton in a contract year, Eric Bledsoe, Brooke Lopez, Giannis. It's okay. Giannis makes it so much better than what it can be. Chris Middleton as a number two is really good. Chris Middleton is going to earn a very big contract this year. 40% from three. He's going to average 18, 20 points. He's going to be the second fiddle. He's going to play defense. I like what Milwaukee has. I just think they need more to win the East and make it to the finals, something like that. But Giannis is my pick for the MVP, like I said. And that's really all I got. Moving on, number 3, Philly.
All right, Philadelphia. So we recorded this on opening night. Philadelphia came up short against Boston, but we love Philadelphia's roster. We love the guys that they have. Ben Simmons, there's no other point guard like him. Joel Embiid, if he stays healthy again, that's another all-star season and an absolute nightmare in the post. But we're looking for their other guys to contribute. Ideally, JJ Redick to shoot lights out once again, Robert Covington to be their 3-and-D guy, TJ McConnell as a spell point guard for Ben Simmons. And then there's Markelle Fultz, who a lot of people thought was going to be the number 1 pick last year. Boston backs out of it, hands it over to Philly, so Markelle Fultz lands in their lap. And then injuries and just a lot of mystery around him. So I'm looking for a bounce back year for Markelle, and if he can contribute to the Sixers this year, watch out.
Markelle as a defender is actually he's an animal defensively. He's 6'4". He's a very big guard. He's big. He's a very big guard. He's strong. He's going to be a really good defender. Ben Simmons is a very good defender. Rocco is a very good defender. Joel Embiid is going to protect the paint. He's going to protect the rim. This might be a top 5 defensive team. Like, I really think that Simmons and Embiid are probably going to make defensive All-NBA. Markelle Fultz might get votes. JJ Redick is a savvy guy, savvy defender. I like what Philadelphia has. The question mark is Markelle Fultz. Obviously, if Markelle Fultz, he continues playing good defense and he comes out, and it's the Markelle Fultz that we saw in the University of Washington. It's the Markelle Fultz that is coast to coast, big, strong, finish with both hands, crazy pull-up spin move. He's got, KD said it, that hezzy pull-up Jimbo. If that Markelle Fultz comes in, Philly might get the number 1 seed. Like, I have him finishing 3rd just because I don't think Markelle is going to be the Markelle Fultz from University of Washington, but there's a chance that he discovers that magic and, he's back, and this might be a number 1 seed. Right now I have him finishing 3rd, sure, because I think the next 2 teams are better, but Philly is going to be scary to watch.
No, and I think that's what Philly can at least have their pride on, is they were a force last year. It was a great breakout season to see Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid on the floor at the same time. This could complete the process. If Markelle Fultz is able to live up to his hype and regain his college abilities, I think this could be a title contender. Philly has a great home court. They have length and energy all around, and Brett Brown, I think, is one of the more underrated coaches in the NBA. So I know tonight wasn't a good look for Philly, but it's one of 82 games. They're going to be just fine. They're going to run through the East, and they're going to give Boston and Toronto some tough outs here. So if I'm Philadelphia, I'm fine with where I'm at. They made a run for LeBron in the summer just because, hey, why not? They got nothing to lose at this point. The 5+ years that they spent tanking and acquiring draft picks and developing these guys, this is now when we want to start seeing it pay off. You can bring all these guys in. They're on relatively friendly deals. This is your chance to make a move in a weakened conference with no LeBron. Philly, I think there's a road for them to make this happen. Will they need some breaks? Yes. But at the same time,
I think they're 1 piece away. I think they're 1 piece away from winning the East. They just need one more talented piece, and that's either Jair Smith, the rookie, being better than advertised, or Markelle Fultz coming back. They're just missing that 1 piece to put them over the hump and being better than Toronto or Boston.
And I think it's there. I really think they can do so. I know they kind of were underwhelming against Boston in the playoffs last year, but that I think was their big introduction to to Showtime, to being in the limelight of, all eyes on us. They got that experience last year. Now I don't think they have anything to be afraid of. For Ben Simmons, I don't know how you defend this guy outside of letting him stand at the 3-point line. For someone who can literally give point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, and even some centers some problems, you don't see guys like that every day in the NBA. And once Ben Simmons learns to get a shooting touch, we could be looking at one of the most complete players since LeBron.
He had 19, 15, and 8 tonight. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Without a jumper. I still think he's shooting with the wrong hand, but, that's neither here or there. Let's move on. Number 2, the Boston Celtics. Number 2 in the East.
Okay. No, I honestly, I'm not necessarily surprised by it because I'm not 100% sold on the Celtics being the write-in for the Eastern Conference representative for a couple reasons. I don't think there's enough minutes to go around. I think you have two players too many right now. They run back their team from last year, plus Kyrie Irving coming back, plus Gordon Hayward. It's no guarantee that Gordon Hayward is going to be the same player yet, because with a injury that gruesome, we don't see players bounce back right away. So it could be some time before Gordon Hayward is back to himself. You have Jason Tatum, who is primed to be the next breakout star in the NBA. But at the same time, you have to find him minutes along with Jaylen Brown, who again is emerging as a young star. And then you look at Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines. Like, these are all guys who got significant minutes last year and now have to kind of agree to take a step back and, be okay with accepting their new roles. I know there's going to be rough patches, but I want to think Brad Stevens can get out of control, but the NBA is driven by a lot of egos, and a lot of these guys know their stats are going to get them paid. And for someone like Terry Rozier, who's going to hit free agency, he's going to want to be able to showcase his skills. He had a hell of a playoff run last season, absolutely phenomenal, but I still would have rather had Kyrie Irving in some spots over Terry Rozier, just for the fact that, Kyrie is that natural scorer. He's someone that can break down a defense and knock down shots from all areas of the court. With all that even being said, as much as I love my Boston Celtics, not exactly guaranteed to run right through everything yet.
Gordon Hayward's behind schedule. That's fine.
They can afford
still
that.
Have all those pieces. Yeah. Kyrie's still Kyrie. Kyrie has picked up some injury knocks the past couple of years. Well, Kyrie's picked up injury knocks his whole career pretty much, but Kyrie is still a top 5 point guard. Terry Rozier is my pick for the 6th man of the year. Al Horford's still there.
What I was going to say is what I like about Boston is they can, like you said, is afford to have some of these guys not be 100% ready to go. I think the goal is have everybody ready by, say, like March, April, when, your money games are coming up here. So the East is going to be easy to run through. But I think their top 4 competition, the Milwaukees, the Phillies, the Torontos, those are the teams you got to worry about. And I think all 3 of those teams can give Boston problems. Yeah, they were able to handle Philadelphia tonight, but again, that's one game out of an 82-game marathon. So I'm not going to put too much stock into it, but I'm still excited about the Celtics. They're my personal pick to still make it out of the East, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as some media is making it out to be. You got anything left on the Celtics?
I think Milwaukee and Philly are going to be in your 50-win tier. I think Boston's in the 60-win tier with my number 1 pick, my number 1 seed out of the East, Toronto.
Your favorite team that you don't want to admit to. You love the Raptors.
I love them now because they got Kawhi. If Kawhi is healthy and on this team and rolling and also if we see 2016 Kawhi, this team is going to win 65 games. And, that's not a knock on Boston. Boston's going to win 62, 63 games. Boston goes 62-20. That's a great season. I just think Toronto can have a better season than that. And, there's only Boston's probably going to have like the 3rd or 4th best record in the league. Yeah, Western and Eastern Conference. I just think Toronto is a little bit more talented. If you look at that roster, who's the best player? It's Kawhi. Between the two teams, Kawhi is probably the best player, and that's just barring health and injuries. Now, by the end of the year, Kawhi might have half a leg. You know, the robot parts didn't get shipped in. It might have been, you know, a recall. It might be his leg might have a recall on his leg, and he's not 100%. You know, that could happen. But I'm going into the season thinking that Kawhi is healthy, and Kawhi is going to make a run at Defense Player of the Year, and Kawhi is going to make a run at MVP. They added Danny Green. I love OG Anunoby. I love Pascal Siakam. I love Serge Ibaka, Jonas Valanciunas. You can go big and you can play OG Anunoby, Serge Ibaka, Jonas Valanciunas, and Kawhi Leonard at the 2 with Kyle Lowry. You can go small and play Kawhi at the 4, Siakam or Ibaka at the 5, and play Anunoby and play Danny Green and play Kyle Lowry. This team is going to be a top 5 defensive team in the league. It might be the best defensive team in the league, you know, with Danny Green and Kawhi joining in. They can guard 1 through 5. They can switch. They can do everything. They have enough personnel to play against any team in the league. I just like the versatility. I like what they bring to the table. I like the players. I like the role players. I like, you know, everybody has a role that they need to do, and they're going to do it well.
No, I think you're right about everything with Toronto. They play probably the best team basketball outside of maybe the Golden State Warriors. Everyone has a defined role. Everyone contributes on a nightly basis, and probably the best home court advantage because you have the whole country pulling for you. I know the Kawhi DeMar DeRozan trade caused a big ripple effect. You pretty much changed the power dynamic in 2 conferences with 1 transaction. So if Kawhi is able to regain that NBA Finals MVP form, it could be tough sledding for the NBA East, because if Kawhi's back to being who he wants to, you know, there's not many players like him. And I want to see him succeed again. I think the NBA missed having a player like Kawhi last year. And, you know, when seeing him in that Raptors jersey on media day was kind of like okay, this is going to be a real thing. We're going to see this happen. And, you know, outside of the creepy laugh he has, I think Kawhi's primed to have a good season. I think this is going to be that fresh start for him. Everyone's going to be rallying behind him, and this could be a call for him to re-sign in Toronto. So do you think he ends up staying and re-signing in Toronto?
I do 100%. Who I don't see staying in Toronto is Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry's gone.
Right, really? You like Kyle Lowry. Why would he want to leave?
I like Kyle Lowry, but I feel like they're going to shake it up even more. And I think if they get Kawhi back and they re-sign him, they might move on from Kyle Lowry and try to move on to somewhere else, somebody else. Like they've already moved on from DeMar DeRozan and brought in Kawhi. I think Kyle Lowry's next. Like I would not be shocked if Kyle Lowry's gone from Toronto next season.
And the last point I want to bring up for the Raptors is Dwayne Casey is let go after the season. They get swept by LeBron again. So LeBron is now no longer in the conference. Do you think the Raptors should have kept Dwayne Casey, or was this coaching change necessary?
I think it was necessary. The splitting up DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, letting Dwayne Casey go, I think it was necessary. I would have been 100% fine if they brought Dwayne Casey back and did not trade DeMar DeRozan and just ran it back. I would have been 100% fine. I think it's necessary just to take a risk. You know, you either take a risk and move forward, or you take a risk and you fail like you have the past couple of years. It's not a lose-lose, but it's not a win-win, but you don't want to stay complacent. You're always trying to make your team better. And Dwayne Casey ran his course. Yes, he won Coach of the Year. Yes, they were the number 1 seed, but they ran its course.
This is all very true. So that does it for the Eastern Conference. Just some last points we're going to leave about it. My Eastern Conference champ is going to be the Boston Celtics. Who's yours?
I have Boston versus Toronto, and I've yet to pick. You got to ask me during the playoffs.
Okay, we'll definitely check back in that. Who's your surprise team in the East?
Surprise team is Brooklyn. I 100% think Brooklyn has a shot at making the playoffs.
Okay, and just to be different, I will go with the Charlotte Hornets. Pretty much does it for the East then. Always been the underwhelming conference. But now let's go to where Showtime now resides, the Western Conference.
We'll start at the bottom.
We're starting at the bottom. We're starting at the bottom.
Yeah. We're going to start at the bottom. We're going to go with Phoenix. I have Phoenix going 15th.
And so Phoenix wins the lottery. they get the talented center from Arizona, DeAndre Ayton, so he goes right up the freeway to from Tucson to Phoenix. Devin Booker is an absolute scoring machine, but could be sidelined a little bit with an injury that he suffered not too long ago. But I think Phoenix is still a little bit behind. I know they still have Josh Jackson as well. Waiting to see him blossom. Still don't know what he's really good at yet, so I'm still waiting to see what that turns into. But Phoenix has a lot of young pieces, but the West is just not the place to be young and developing right now.
They might have my favorite coach, Igor Kokoskov. That's a guy. That is a guy, Igor Kokoskov. I don't even know if he's a good coach. I just like his name. Devin Booker, I think, is overrated. Everybody thinks he's a top 5 shooting guard. I don't think he's a top 5 shooting guard. I think you're looking at light-skinned Brad Beal pretty much is what Devin Booker is.
You made that point known on Twitter. It did cause up a bit of a tweet storm from some people who were essentially triggered that you kind of disrespected Devin Booker like that, but I'm kind of in the same.
Tell me what Devin Booker. What does Devin Booker do but score? Devin Booker is an okay ball.
He's a volume scorer, and I'm not discrediting him for that. It's just he just shoots the ball a lot on a bad team, and everyone just passes to him, and he makes his shots. I just haven't seen him make anybody better yet.
Yeah, he makes himself better. I just don't think he's all that, and he's going to be all that. Now, granted, I don't think he's going to be an all-star in the Western Conference. The Western Conference is too stacked. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good building block to have under 25. I still think he's good. I just think everybody's blowing a lot of smoke up his ass, and I don't think that's warranted yet. You got to prove to me that you're going to be able to take Phoenix. I have them finishing 15th. I have them finishing dead last in the conference. You got to prove to me you can at least fight for the playoffs with Devin Booker being the number 1 guy to have that much hype around Devin Booker. I don't think that much hype is warranted.
I don't think it needs to be either because, again, he had a 70-point game, and they still lost by double digits. I don't know.
And Avery Bradley, the best defender on that team, on that Boston team, didn't play that game either.
It was funny because I was at work that night and I got an update. I'm like, 70? But they lost.
Yeah, and it's not like they just barely lost. They lost by like 20. They were down 20 the whole game while Devin Booker was having a 70-point night.
And I think that was another game where Isaiah Thomas had a strong fourth quarter. So REP Celtics IT. Miss you, bud. Team number 14.
Sacramento.
When does it ever make sense in Sacramento? They finally get some lottery luck. They get a pick in the top 3, and they take Marvin Bagley III, who I don't think is a bad pick. Don't get me wrong. But, again, the rest of this Kings team, I look at them like, what's going on here?
So I like De'Aaron Fox. I like Buddy Hield. I like Bogdan Bogdanovic. I like Harry Giles. I like Marvin Bagley. I like Willie Cauley-Stein. It's just they're a whole bunch of B pluses. There's not a lot of A pluses on that team. I think Marvin Bagley has a shot to becoming an A plus, but I just see a whole lot of B's and C's. In Sacramento, it's just been a dumpster fire for the past 15 years. It's been 20 years. When was the last time Sacramento was relevant? Before Chris Webber left? 06? 05?
I want to say it was 2006. Let me double check that.
I believe Chris Webber went to Philly in 07, and that was kind of the end of the Brad Miller, Chris Webber, Christie, Bibby, Peja years. I think Peja actually left in like 04, 05.
All right, so so the Sacramento Kings now own the NBA's longest playoff drought.
I'm guessing the last time they made the playoffs was 04.
This was clickbait, I think. I think I got. Well, it says they're now in the company of the Seattle Mariners, who are on a 16-year, the Miami Marlins 14, and the Cleveland Browns 15. So it's been a while.
Yeah, so 04, I'm guessing that was 14 years ago, was 04.
Yep.
Yeah, so that I think that was it because I think Pager left after that, and Chris Webber went on somewhere in that time. Yeah, and since then it's been a dumpster fire. They had DeMarcus Cousins, now they don't, and now they DeMarcus Cousins was that A+ blue chip prospect. He just rubbed people the wrong way, and he just didn't have a coach to play for. He didn't have a he was great in the community. He was great in everywhere else. It's just basketball wise, it just didn't work out with DeMarcus Cousins in Sacramento. Ended up trading him for the number ended up being the number 3 pick with De'Aaron Fox, and ended up being Buddy Hield. So, I mean, there's talent on the team, but like I said, a bunch of B's and bunch of B's, bunch of C's, not enough A's.
And unfortunately, this is the wrong conference to not have strong grades in to kind of play off your pun. Number 13.
13, I got Memphis.
I'm surprised you even have Memphis at 13. I thought this would have been your last place team because there's after Conley and an aging Gasol, there's nothing.
There's Jaren Jackson, the rookie. My rookie of the year pick is Jaren Jackson. I think he's going to finish with like some line of like 17-8 with a block and a steal a game, and he's going to hit 2 threes a game. I think him and Marc Gasol are going to play good together. They're going to be very tough inside. They're going to defend the rim. They're going to rebound. They both can step out and hit threes. Mike Conley, the corpse of Chandler Parsons. There's talent there, but they're in the wrong division. If Memphis was in the East, Memphis would be a playoff team. Memphis is in the West, and I have them finishing 13th.
Definitely need that Seattle expansion to happen already to see if they can get bumped to the East. But there's just not a lot of buzz or storylines around this team. This is one of your smaller market teams. We talked about the possibility of Conley or Gasol being moved out. Conley signed that super contract not too long ago, so it doesn't look like that'll be moving anytime soon. So they could be here to stay.
Yeah, definitely. Marc Gasol's a free agent after this season. I think he's gone. I think he's gone before the season's end. I think somebody comes after Marc Gasol. Mike Conley, like you said, the contract a little bit less unmovable. I think they look to tank more, and they look to move on from their good players, and they build around Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson is going to be a stud. I like the way his game. He's a stretch 5 that can defend the rim. There's not a lot of those like on earth, and there's not a lot of those. Period. There's not a lot of those in the history of the game that can hit threes at the clip that he's going to hit threes, and that's going to be able to protect the rim the way he's going to protect the rim. I think he's going to be a stud. Like I said, my pick of the rookie of the year is Jaren Jackson. So let's go ahead and move on. Number 12, the Clippers.
So the LA Clippers, we weren't entirely sure what they were doing at the trade deadline last year. We thought they would, sell some pieces off, but they decided to stand pat and just, kind of roll with things. They did kind of flip things around when they decided to sign Blake Griffin to an extension, then trade him less than 4 months later. So I look at this makeup. Somehow Doc Rivers decided to stick around this long, which is still somewhat surprising. But he did finally move his son out of there, so I don't know if he was doing Austin a favor, but I really like Tobias Harris on this team. Avery Bradley, there's some nice players here, but it's kind of like one of those rosters you would see in the Eastern Conference. None of it really makes sense to me because there is some talent there, but not a whole lot to get excited about because how far can this really go?
The best thing out of the Clippers is the Toby and Bobby show that they have on the offseason. They're hilarious together. Basketball-wise, Boban is great in 5-minute stretches. He can't play more than 20, 30 minutes a night. It's just it doesn't work with him like that. I love Harrell. Montrezl Harrell is an animal. I love him. Tobias Harris, he's underrated. He's a very, very underrated guy. He's gonna be a 20-point per game scorer on good efficiency. He's gonna grab 6 or 7 rebounds. He's gonna get 2 or 3 assists. And he's gonna put up numbers. I like what Tobias Harris is in the league. Patrick Beverley, Avery Bradley, sneaky best defensive backcourt in the league. And there's good pieces. They're going to be a good piece, a good attraction piece in free agency to get a star. A Kawhi Leonard, a Kevin Durant, somebody like that that wants to go to LA but doesn't want to play in LeBron's shadow, can choose the Clippers, and there's a good base there. They're just missing a star. Like we said with Sacramento, there's a lot of B's and C's, not a lot of A's. So they're just looking to get A's. They're looking for their A's. That's all the Clippers are doing right now.
And one thing I do like about the Clippers is the players are nice. Don't get me wrong, but I think they could make a little bit more if they decide to move them into other places. I always like the possibility of Avery Bradley joining the Oklahoma City Thunder. I thought that would be a good fit for him. It's somewhere he could shine, hitting corner threes, and kind of taking the defensive responsibilities away from a Russell Westbrook. But I know him and Doc Rivers have been tight since their Boston days, so I don't see that breaking up anytime soon. But again, it's the Clippers. They're still the little brother team. And I think it's going to show more than ever now that the team across the hallways made some changes themselves, but they come later. Team number 11.
Dallas.
So Dallas makes a splash. They do the big draft trade, bring in Luka Doncic, the very talented, very promising European talent. Is he 19? 20? Okay, so he's going to be a very young, fun star to kind of tune into. So the Mavericks might be fun basketball to watch because they also have Dennis Smith Jr., who is a highlight reel on a nightly basis. If you haven't seen this guy dunk before, definitely do yourself a favor. Go on YouTube and watch a couple of his dunks. The man has absolute bunnies in his feet.
My greatest fact about Dennis Smith Jr. was him tearing his ACL and them discovering that he has a second ACL in his knee. I don't know how that's possible. I don't even know if that story was true, but I know I read it. And if that is true, that's amazing. And that might explain why Dennis Smith Jr. has a 55-inch vertical. Now, 55-inch, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but it's closer to 55 than 40. I'll tell you that. Dennis Smith Jr., Luka Doncic, Wesley Matthews, Harrison Barnes, Dirk, DeAndre Jordan. That's a good little nucleus. That's a good little nucleus there.
I think
that's not playoffs because you're in the West, but that's a good little, young nucleus for you to have in Dallas.
Yeah, I mentioned the Pacers being one of the more boring league pass teams. I think the Mavericks could be a fun watch. Granted,
I think so too.
I think it's going to be a lot of games in the 120s and 130s this year, but get a little throwback to their 2003 days when they were just running and gunning.
Yeah, Wesley Matthews is a shell of himself, which sucks. That Achilles injuries, it sucks, but he's still going to be a contributor. Harrison Barnes, a lot of overrated, a lot of the hype that he was getting out of North Carolina. He definitely didn't live up to it, but he's still a good 15-5-5 guy. Like he's going to contribute. Like Dallas has some pieces. I like where they're heading.
And I think you said it best. And I think you're going to notice that with a lot of teams. They're just stuck in the wrong conference. Team number 10.
Team number 10, I have Minnesota. So this is pretty much the trade of, not the trade of the line where you get from the pretenders to the playoff contenders. Number 10, I have Minnesota right now, but I think that if they don't trade Jimmy Butler, they will fight for that AFC and they will fight to get into the playoffs. I have them at number 10 because I expect them to move Jimmy Butler.
Now, there's been a lot of Jimmy Butler drama the past week. He was at media day and at practice just outright throwing complete haymakers at management, teammates, pretty much calling out the entire organization for not, getting their act together, for calling out players on his own team for underperforming or kind of, taking it easy. I don't have a problem with what Jimmy Butler did because I think the Timberwolves need a wake up at this point because Karl-Anthony Towns we thought would be better than this by now. Andrew Wiggins, same thing. Like you have all this basketball talent, but yet haven't put together. Was it wrong of how Jimmy Butler did it? I don't know. But I don't have a problem with how he went about of trying to, get people to wake up and see the picture here that, yeah, are you okay with being the 8th seed last year? Well, you shouldn't be because we just got waxed in 4 games by the Rockets. We don't know if this is going to end in Jimmy Butler staying in Minnesota by any chance or where he's going to end up. But I think this was a necessary evil for the Timberwolves to endure.
They were the number 3 seed. They were the number 3 seed. Jimmy hurt his knee, and they plummeted. They couldn't win a game without Jimmy, and they went from the number 3 seed to fighting for the number 8 seed and having to have a playoff play in game pretty much versus Denver the last game of the season. That's what it was. If Jimmy would have never got hurt, they would have had home court advantage easily. And Jimmy got hurt, and then that's just how things roll. Injuries happen. You can't really predict that. Karl-Anthony Towns was a 50-40-85 guy, or 50-38-85 guy shooting percentage wise. That is a top tier efficiency number for a 7-footer. Yes, he's a little bit more. There's a lot to be desired of Karl-Anthony Towns defensively. Offensively, he's a monster. He averaged 22 and 10. 22 and 10 out of a 22-year-old with high level of efficiency. There's not much you really want more out of Cat. Yes, defensive wise, you think he'd be a little bit better, but he's a top 15 player. That's the big guy that's disappointing is Andrew Wiggins. I really thought Andrew Wiggins was going to be better than what he is. I don't think Andrew Wiggins has gotten better since he's gotten in the league. Like, tell me what Andrew Wiggins has improved on. Nothing. Like, I got nothing. Like,
I think what it boils down to for the Timberwolves is, can Thibodeau get this back together? They were a top tier team in the West when Jimmy Butler was healthy and things are going well. He gets hurt, things fall apart. Now we're here. The season just now starting, and we don't know how much longer Jimmy Butler is going to be there, and if he's even going to bring remotely close to what he was or what he wants to bring to the floor on a nightly basis. Outside of that, I have Minnesota just in that limbo stage of 10 through 7. Like,
that's what they're in. They're in limbo. So, like, if I'm Minnesota, I'm going to Washington, I'm saying, hey, can we have Brad Beal for Jimmy? Or I'm going to Portland and saying, hey, can we have CJ McCollum for Jimmy? Or something like that. I'm looking for a Kawhi deal where it was Kawhi for DeMar DeRozan. I'm looking for that type of talent swap. We saw the Clippers get into it, and you can say, hey, give me Tobias Harris and Avery Bradley, or Tobias Harris and Pat Beverly or somebody like that. That's a good team with that. Or Miami, Josh Richardson, or first round pick. Josh Richardson is a good player who's going to help that team out as well. I mean, there's deals out there that you can get for Jimmy. There's not deals out there where you're going to get the same talent as Jimmy, but I would probably pursue that more. But now that the season started, if I'm Portland, I probably don't trade CJ McCollum for Jimmy. Maybe I do it in the offseason, in the middle of the offseason, but I don't do it when the season started and getting onto the trade deadline. I do think Jimmy's gone. I don't think they're going to get full value. I think that time has passed. If they wanted to get full value for Jimmy Butler, they should have traded him a month ago. But now, I think that time has passed, and they kind of missed the boat on it. I'm pretty sure Tibbs does not want to trade Jimmy Butler, but Tibbs might be gone after the season. I think this is a sink or swim year for Tibbs and his future in Minnesota.
I mean, he pretty much rebuilt the Bulls, and the Bulls players have not been relatively healthy or good since Tibbs's original run in Chicago. So just to kind of put a bow on this Minnesota thing is, however this Jimmy goes is how the franchise goes.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's all we can say to it. As good as Karl-Anthony Towns can be, as good as Andrew Wiggins decides to be, it doesn't really mean much if this Jimmy Butler thing doesn't even get resolved or repaired here. So team number 9?
Yes, number 9. Missing the playoffs in my eyes, but fighting for the last number 8 seed. They'll be in the thick and thin of it. A big surprise. I have San Antonio finishing number 9.
I don't think it can be really much of a surprise considering how much the Spurs have now lost. the regime is gone. Tim Duncan's retired, Manu's retired, Tony Parker was not re-signed, and he went on to Charlotte. So Pop is now working with a new batch of players, promising. I can't even say like. Let me try that again. Promising young star Deontay Murray tears his ACL right before the season starts. So that's a pretty deep loss for a team that was kind of thin in the guard spot. But on the positive note, DeMar DeRozan is looking to redeem himself after kind of that, just a tough break for him being sent out of Toronto because he loved the city. He loved where he was at. And now he's kind of refocused himself of, all right, fine, I'm going to dedicate myself to basketball, and I'm going to show the Raptors that they made a terrible mistake trading me. For the San Antonio side of things, the Kawhi drama is now over. I don't think that was really going to get fixed in anyone's eyes in San Antonio once it looked like it was beyond repair. But outside of that, they just don't have enough to compete in the West right now. For as good as DeMar DeRozan is, there's just not enough help.
So Lonnie Walker's hurt. He's going to miss 2 to 4 weeks. DeJounte Murray's going to miss the whole season. They were expecting really big things out of DeJounte Murray. His injury hurts a lot. Kyle Anderson's gone. They're going to have Davis Bertans try to pick up Kyle Anderson's minutes. Kyle Anderson's in Memphis now. Rudy Gay's the starting 3. Pau Gasol's the starting 4 or the starting 5, and LaMarcus Aldridge is the 4 or the 5. And DeMar DeRozan and Patty Mills. That starting 5 is good. It's just in a conference like the West. Like, I don't think that's a playoff starting team. Their 2 best players, DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. If you look at Portland's 2 best players, I would take Portland. If you look at if you look at Minnesota, I have Minnesota finishing underneath San Antonio because of the drama, but I would take Jimmy and Cat over DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. And Jimmy and Cat might hate each other, and I'd still take those 2 over DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. There's just that indomitable Spurs way of basketball is still there, and that counts for something, sure. But this isn't the same Spurs team. There's a lot of different parts, and I just think they missed the boat.
And I think that's what it's come down to because the system can only get you so far. Pop has done an exceptional job of not only creating a culture, but just that longevity of success in the NBA. Last season was their first year not getting 50 wins in, I think it was like 10 plus years.
Yeah, something like that. Like some crazy number, some astronaut. It might have been like 15 years, honestly.
I think this is going to be a bridge year for the Spurs. It's going to be weird not seeing them in the playoffs because teams in the West are not only getting stronger, but just the overall NBA is really starting to, blow away the Spurs way, if that makes sense. The pace and space way of, coaching and roster building, everything. It's kind of pushing the Spurs further and further away from the contention core. So I don't think Pop is going to let his team boil out like this, but it just might be too much for the Spurs to do this year.
I do think Minnesota and San Antonio will fight for the 8th seed. The 8th seed being Portland. I don't think Portland has really separated itself from Minnesota or from San Antonio. I do think the best player on those 3 teams is, well, Karl Anthony Towns, yes, but with all the beef, I think the second best player is Damian Lillard. I love Damian Lillard. I love CJ McCollum. I love what those 2 guys bring to the table. They're both at any point can go off for 50. I've seen both of them go off for 50. I've watched Damian Lillard versus Sacramento. He had 50 in 3 quarters. CJ McCollum versus Chicago. CJ McCollum had 50 in 3 quarters. If they weren't blowouts and they both played the 4th quarters, they both would have had over 70 in both of those games. So there's a lot of scoring there with those 2 teams. I love CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard. They might be my favorite backcourt in the league. With that being said, they still need more. So Yusuf Nurkic, I can't even – who's starting at the small forward? I don't even know. Is it Evan Turner? I hope it's not Evan Turner. Pat Connaughton's not there anymore. I don't know what you have in Portland other than the two alphas in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, your B tier guys in Yusuf Nurkic, and you got a lot of you got a lot of D's and E's and F's. I don't see a lot of guys there to help him. Would I be shocked if San Antonio and Minnesota overtakes them and Portland finishes 10th? I would not be shocked. Would I be shocked if they pulled what they did last year and make a strong run for a top 4 seed? I would not be shocked at all either.
Well, it's funny because they ran back the same squad from last year, led by Dame and CJ, and got absolutely ran out of the gym by New Orleans in 4 games. And I know it's a New Orleans team that has Anthony Davis, and not a lot of teams have an Anthony Davis. I understand that, but I think you're dead on when you say, where's option number 3 for Portland? You've done this Dame and CJ show now for a couple seasons, and it really hasn't materialized into much. They don't really have the money to go out and spend. They've never been a big, attraction for free agents. They have to, go the Dame and CJ route, hope they draft and hit with some of these guys. But can they make some noise in the West? Maybe, but I don't think they'll be able to make enough. I don't see it really making a big dent in the Western Conference. And, for Portland's sake, do they explore trading one or the other?
I think so, but who are you going to get back? If it's not like a deal to bring like an Anthony Davis or somebody like that, that's not really a deal that you would make. Especially now with the season already started, you don't trade CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard at the trade deadline unless you're completely trying to bomb. And I mean, other than those two, there's not really much on the roster. So if you're trading star for star or somebody like that, or you're trading star for 2 or 3 players, it's not going to get you over in that next hump. So staying pat now, staying pat for the rest of the season, sure. If they still finish as another first-round exit, I think the next offseason is where you try to figure out where you want to move CJ McCollum or where you want to move Damian Lillard and try to figure things out at the end there.
Well, either way, Portland, I don't know what the future is going to hold for them, but I don't know how many times they can do the same season over and over because, outside of, I think it was the 2014 I think it was the 2014 playoffs where Dame hits that series winning shot. Really hasn't been much excitement in Portland since then.
Yeah, and they were the 3rd seed last year. They won 49 games with that amazing final month of the season where they couldn't lose and Dame was unstoppable and he was making a all NBA push pretty much. So, I mean, yeah, it could happen, but they're Western Conference Washington Wizards where they're just middling. That's pretty much what they are.
The Wizards with cooler jerseys. Team number 7?
7. Who do I have? 7. 7. I have New Orleans.
So I think the big question about this New Orleans team is, do you trade Anthony Davis? Are you able to re-sign Anthony Davis? I think that's going to be a cloud that hangs over this team this entire season. For as well as they were able to win a playoff series last year, they really don't have much else to bring them further. Yet you have AD, you have Jrue Holiday, Nikolai Mirotic is down there, but I don't see much else. And I just think this AD trade cloud and free agency thing is just going to loom over them.
They made their splash. His name was DeMarcus Cousins. The thing is, he tore his Achilles, ended up being a free agent, and left. So they tried with Anthony Davis, and it didn't work. I don't think the DeMarcus Cousins trade was the right trade to make, but it was a trade that was available, and they got a top 5 NBA center in DeMarcus Cousins. It just didn't work. With that being said, Jrue Holiday, Nikola Mirotic, Julius Randle, Anthony Davis, good core. Etuan Moore will give him some shooting. Solomon Hill is making way too much money. Solomon Hill, wow. Good job, Solomon Hill, securing that bag. Other than that, Anthony Davis by himself is a good enough talent to get them into the playoffs. If Giannis doesn't win MVP, my guy that if I couldn't pick Giannis, my next pick would be Anthony Davis. I think that's 1-2. 1-2 in the MVP race is going to be some combination of Giannis and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis might also win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he's going to probably end up being first team All NBA as well as first team defense. He's going to have a phenomenal year. He's going to be a transcendent star, and he's going to be a sought after guy. You throw the farm at Anthony Davis because he's that good of a player.
I mean, we're not talking about just like a draft talent. This is, I think, a generational talent because for someone with the size and defensive and offensive abilities of an Anthony Davis, these guys they're not easy to find. And AD can literally turn a franchise on a dime. So however the season plays out, I just don't see him staying in New Orleans, and it's going to be a big sweepstakes. So if you had to pick that team, who wins the Anthony Davis sweepstakes?
Chicago, hometown.
He goes back home.
Hometown. He's got Chicago tattooed on his right bicep. So
him and Jabari Parker are going to bring the Bulls back to relevancy.
Yep, and Larry Marketing, and Wendell Carter, those guys just gonna, that's the dream. You can't rule out LA, you can't rule out Boston because Boston has the pieces to make any trade work. Can't rule out a Knicks or somebody like that. You can't rule out the big cities, but it's gonna be. I don't think he moves this season. I think he moves the next off season, especially if they have a disappointing playoff run again. This year there was some success in the playoffs with them beating Portland, but I still don't think they're a top tier team. I still don't think they get past the first, second rounds, and they're not going to make the finals. They're not going to make a Western Conference Finals, and if they do make a Western Conference Finals, they're going to get 4-0 skunked by Golden State. So I like certain guys on the team. It's just they don't have enough. That's just it. They just don't have enough.
It seems like they've been looking for their consistent small forward now for over 5 years. And how many years is it going to be a Pondexter or who are they shoehorning at that spot year after year? It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's Solomon Hill this year.
Again,
good job, Solomon Hill.
Got his money. Team number 6.
Number 6. Who do I have number 6? Let me take a look at my notes. I have the Lakers. Finishing 6.
Woo! Okay, so the Lakers literally broke Twitter in a day. Me, Rob, and Mario recorded a podcast that Sunday afternoon. Nice little NBA offseason. We kind of brushed over this story before. LeBron decides he wants to sign with the Lakers a few hours later and literally ruins that entire episode, which unfortunately got thrown into the black hole archive. So long story short, the Lakers will win the LeBron lottery, or more so LeBron picks the Lakers, however you want to put it. The best player in the NBA just went to probably one of the most prestigious franchises and brought some baggage along with them. The Lakers also decided to sign JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson, Rajon Rondo, and they renounced Julius Randle, kind of cutting bait on him. And now these Lakers have a younger core led by a generational superstar. So with LeBron, Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, all these other young pieces that the Lakers have, they're back in the playoffs. But in all honesty, Rob, how far can LeBron carry this team?
As far until they have to play Golden State.
And I was going to say, okay, better question. How long until Golden State puts that joke to an end? Because we don't think this is going to be, and I'm going to use a reference here, we don't think this is the Lakers' final form. We still think there's some things that are going to happen here in the near future.
Yeah, they're going to sign Chris Middleton to a max contract.
Chris Middleton, that's going to be the Lakers' savior?
Yeah, like they're not going to get Kawhi. They're not going to get Jimmy. They're not going to get Anthony Davis. They're not going to get that big star. It's going to be Chris Middleton on a max contract.
So I'm looking at LA's roster right now. There's very minimal shooting. Everyone's either a 15-foot player or someone who doesn't necessarily put the ball in the basket that much. Where's this offense going to come from for the Lakers?
I think it's more the Miami offense is what I want to say. where LeBron is going to be running the floor a lot, and they had the ball in Dwayne Wade's hands, and Dwayne Wade was pushing the floor, and LeBron was being the finisher. I think that's what the offense is going to look like. It's going to look more Miami LeBron. It's just Miami LeBron was like almost 10 years ago. He's not that same guy. He can't run up and down the floor, 40 minutes a night and finish like that. He's just going to get beat up. LeBron's in his mid-30s now. You can't play that style with LeBron like that. I know they're going to try to play faster, and they're going to try to play with LeBron with the ball in his hands, and they're going to try to move the ball around and try to play fast and whatnot and kind of forego shooting, and it's going to work to a degree. But I just don't see enough. I don't see enough talent there. There's a lot of like pieces to where you don't know what's going to happen. So Rajon Rondo's there. Rajon Rondo's he's not going to take a backseat to Lonzo Ball. Rajon Rondo has enough in the tank where he's going to 100% fight for the starting spot against Lonzo. I 100% think Rajon Rondo is in LA right now, and he's looking at Lonzo. He's like, I'm better than you. I should be starting. And KCP is a starting two guard. He should not be the starting two guard. Kyle Kuzma is going to be coming off the bench. He should not be coming off the bench. The starting lineup should be Ingram, LeBron, Kuzma, and Lonzo Ball, and have those guys be, on the floor 35 plus minutes a night, and then have Josh Hart come off the bench and relieve some time at the two and relieve some time at the point and all that. Like those should be the guys getting the minutes. But now they got to find minutes for Michael Beasley. They got to find minutes for Lance Stevenson. They got to find minutes for Rajon Rondo. Like I wouldn't have made those moves. Like it's very puzzling to have guys that need to play 10, 15, 20 minutes a night while you have, while they're going to take their minutes away from the young guys. Like, and it shouldn't be like that.
No, and if LA wanted to go this direction where it was going to be LeBron and the kids, that's kind of how they should have left it. But they make some very weird short-term investments by bringing in those older guys. So regardless, I think it's going to be an entertaining on-court product. LeBron's going to be LeBron. He brought instant relevancy back to the Lakers, and I think me and you are personally going to enjoy throwing the LeBron takes, watching those get thrown left and right whenever he struggles, or if someone throws out some Kobe slander. Regardless, having the Lakers be this good again is good for the NBA. It's good for basketball. It's going to make irritating Mario a lot more fun, and I'm happy to have it back.
It's still going to be a 6 seed in the first round exit, so, I mean,
not whatever much makes them happy. Hey, they get an extra series at home. I still don't think they're a contender. I'm sorry, Laker Nation. You're not a contender yet. LeBron is good, but this is thousands upon thousands of minutes and playoff minutes now under LeBron's legs. I don't know if he's going to hit a wall. He doesn't necessarily need to try anymore. He's in LA to live his best life now, and I'm sure you saw him at the Drake show a few nights ago. He's just here to have fun at this point.
Yeah. Number 5, Denver.
What I really enjoy about Denver is they weren't like they saw how good they could be, and they made a conceded effort to get better. I like the signing of Isaiah Thomas. I mean, worst case scenario, he brings you bench scoring, and best case scenario, he can show you flashes of what he was when he was in Boston. That's a player that can really help them get back in the midst of a crowded Western Conference. Paul Millsap coming back full strength, I think that's going to be a nice addition for him. They unloaded some salary. I try to think of the draft off the top of my head, but it's weird to think Kenneth Faried won't be there anymore. But you've always been a fan of Denver's structure.
Nikola Jokic is amazing.
Yeah,
he's the best passing big man in the league. Nikola Jokic, if Anthony Davis is a power forward this year or listed as a power forward, Nikola Jokic is probably the best center in the league, other than Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is probably the best center in the Western Conference if we consider Anthony Davis a power forward. If Anthony Davis is considered a center, then Anthony Davis, of course, is the best center in the league. But Nikola Jokic is probably going to make an All-Star game this year. He will 100% make an All-Star game this year, and he's probably going to be the leading assist man in the All-Star game. Nikola Jokic is going to have like 6 alley-oops thrown, and that's coming from a 7'1" center who's also going to shoot threes. He's not going to defend the court, no, but he's going to bring the ball up court. He's going to initiate the offense. I love Gary Harris, love Jamal Murray, Paul Millsap, unsung, underrated guy his whole career. There's a lot of talent there. I love Will Barton. I love Juan Hernan Gomez. It's just a lot of talent there. I like what Denver has. The big thing that might put them over the top is Michael Porter Jr. I think Michael Porter Jr. is a guy that can be a 20-point per game scorer if his back doesn't flare up and he has back spasms. He's only 20. He's not 205 where he can't walk without his back breaking. So if he comes back healthy for the second half of the season and he comes out there and he gives them that scoring punch, Denver's going to go far.
And I don't think that home court advantage can be undersold. Playing in Denver for almost any sport has become a tough go of it for other teams. So if Denver learns to harness their home court advantage and these, we think these players hit their stride, we think they can, get it together in some aspects, they could be a tough out in the playoffs. So I have high hopes for Denver.
Yeah. That's another team that we're kind of missing a star in, but the star is Nikola Jokic, but I don't think Nikola Jokic is enough. But like I said, I still think they finished 5th. 4, I have Utah.
So Utah with Donovan Mitchell emerging as the NBA's new young stud. They absolutely take the league by storm with just an unrelenting pace on offense and defense. Rudy Gobert is still one of the best interior defenders in the NBA. Ricky Rubio regained his court vision, I guess you could say, and started playing basketball with confidence again. They get good depth with Joe Ingles, Jay Crowder. They bring back Dante Exum, and they draft Grayson Allen. So I think there's talent on this roster. And, after they disposed of OKC in the first round last year, I think they can run it back and make some noise in the playoffs again.
My pick for Rookie of the Year is Jaren Jackson. I would not be surprised if Grayson Allen makes all NBA or all rookie first team. I think he's going to be a very good defender. I think he's going to hit a lot of threes. I think he's going to trip some people. He's another version of JJ Redick. Whatever JJ Redick does good, Grayson Allen does good. And I think Grayson Allen is going to pretty much have a career similar to what JJ Redick has and still has. And I think we're seeing another JJ Redick clone with Grayson Allen. With that being said, Ricky Rubio, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, that's a really good defensive team. Joe Ingles as well, Jay Crowder. There's a lot of versatility. Derek Favors, they can go big, they can go small. They have the star. They have the A+, your blue chip, the guy that you want, Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell, I think he gets better. I think Donovan Mitchell makes an all-star team. All the hype that Devin Booker is getting, Donovan Mitchell is better than Devin Booker. I 100% think Donovan Mitchell is better than Devin Booker, and we should be talking more about Donovan Mitchell than Devin Booker.
I think that's a pretty good take because in his first season alone, you saw how good Donovan Mitchell can be in stretches because he was showing that he has touch from outside and how ferocious he can be attacking the rim. He had a couple of dunks where it was just look out below because he's flying through the paint into the rim. Utah, again, is kind of like a better version of Denver. They have that same weird home court advantage where opposing teams just have trouble playing in the elevation and playing in a loud building like Utah has. So I think, again, Utah is going to be a team that's going to make some noise in the West. And if they somehow end up in the Western Conference Finals, we presume it's going to be Golden State there. Not always an easy game for Golden State to get by Utah, but I could see a hungry Utah team really trying to make a push this year to contend.
If they play Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, I think they win 2. 4-2 against Golden State is not bad. LeBron got swept last year by Golden State. So, winning a couple games against Golden State, yeah, it's not a bad thing. Number 3, I have OKC.
So they make the big splash of free agency by literally having a party for Paul George coming back, which kind of surprised a lot of us because with how dysfunctional it looked at times with Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Paul George, we didn't think Paul George would sign up for this again. But he decides he wants to re-up with Russell, and they think they can make something there. They make some smaller moves in the offseason. They bring in Dennis Schroeder to be the backup point guard to Russell Westbrook. But right now, Schroeder is going to begin starting minutes because Russell is going to be out for the first couple of weeks dealing with a knee surgery. So we'll see how that pans out. But another move they made that I don't think they got enough recognition was Nerlens Noel. I think he can be a decent bench player for the Thunder, spelling Steven Adams. I think they've had getting better depth. I still like their coaching. I like their athleticism. I think it's a matter of how far can Russell Westbrook and Paul George carry this team.
Yeah, with Russell Westbrook being hurt, I had them third, and I had this for I've made this list for a while. I've had this list, my rankings of the standings 1 to 15 for a while before we learned that Russell Westbrook was going to miss extended time with that knee injury. If he does miss more time with that knee injury, I don't think they finish third. This team is predicated on how good Russell Westbrook is and can be. If he's dealing with a nagging knee injury for the rest of the season, that's really gonna hurt their chances. But other than that, if Russell Westbrook is healthy, Westbrook, Paul George, they have a lot more depth this season than what they have last season. Pat Patterson, Jeremy Grant, Nerlens Noel, Steve Adams, Alex Abrines, Andre Robertson, who's still hurt, and Andre Robertson, we don't know when he's going to be back. So Robertson, when Robinson comes back, along with Abrines, Terrence Ferguson, Russ, Dennis Schroeder, they're deeper now than they are last season, and that's where I thought that they were going to be the number 3 seed. Is just I thought they were a deeper team. There's a little bit more talent there, and but with Russell being injured, that's tossing everything in the air.
I have a weird theory that with Oklahoma City, I think they can be okay without Russell. And I say that in the sense of as much as I enjoy Russell's game, I enjoy the energy and outright ferocity he brings on a nightly basis. There's a way I can see this playing out to where they're able to stay in the thick of things until Russell comes back.
So it's pretty much Washington last season when John Wall got hurt and they were able to kind of do a little bit more different stuff and they were able to stay afloat. It's not a Jimmy Butler from last year where Jimmy Butler got hurt, Minnesota tanked it. It's more John Wall got hurt and Washington was able to stay, semi-decent.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Let's move on. Number 2, Houston. I think Houston's worse this year than they were last year. But I still don't think there's a team in the Western Conference that's better than Houston other than number 1 seed Golden State.
So Houston has their franchise record in wins last year. They put up record numbers in points, threes, attempted threes made. Chris Paul and James Harden are running up and down the NBA. And then they get to the Western Conference Finals and Chris Paul gets hurt, and then it all falls apart. Kind of culminated with missing 27 straight shots in a conference elimination game, but that's not a big deal, I guess. If you're Houston, it's okay. You just run back the same team. It didn't necessarily work out that way because you lose Trevor Ariza, and now he's replaced with Carmelo Anthony, who we're not sure has that much left in the tank at this point. We don't know how much Chris Paul has left in the tank and how long he keep playing at a high level like this. And, as good as James Harden can be, relying on someone to put up the numbers he put up last season 2 years in a row, very unlikely that happens. But Houston, again, is going to, shoot a lot of threes. They're going to, run the score up a lot of games. But I think when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to, these big marquee moments, do we trust Mike D'Antoni and the Houston Rockets to pull it out again? I really don't.
I don't either. Nobody on that team has a track record of big plays in crunch time.
And I'm not doing this to be mean or anything. It's a team of front runners. I see these are guys that play better when they're either ahead or there's not a lot of pressure, kind of surrounding them. I don't want to be that guy that's hard on James Harden, but to me, it's been okay. You've made all these shots. You can do your little hezzy pull up, or you can just do that hurt jerk move to get to the rim. That's all grand and everything, but when that doesn't work, what do you resort to?
Yeah, I mean, and this is James Harden. This is the reigning MVP we're talking about as well. James Harden's finished second in MVP voting twice. His last 4 finishes were 7, 8, 7, or no, second, 8th, second, and first. His last 4 MVP finishes. That's a top 8, top 7 player in the NBA right now. But we saw him disappear in the 2012 finals, OKC versus Miami. He disappeared in those finals. We saw him disappear when they got eliminated by San Antonio a couple of years ago. Last season, 0 of 27 from 3. They were winning. They were up 3-2. And they were winning in game 6, lost. And they were winning at halftime in game 7 and lost. Like, you don't know what's missing with James Harden. Like, I don't know what he needs. If I'm Houston, and I know they've kicked the tires on it, Daryl Morey is a guy that doesn't care. He'll trade whoever to get and try to make his team better. This is a team that should trade for Jimmy Butler. And I think during the trade deadline in February, All-Star break, where Minnesota's kind of struggling, Jimmy's punched Cat a couple of times, Thibodeau has completely lost his voice, and he has to result with sign language to, try to communicate with his team, and Jimmy's yelling at everybody. It might be, you might be able to get Jimmy Butler 10 cents on a dollar. Who knows? But I will 100% go after Jimmy Butler. That might be a guy that might make a difference. Right now, I don't think they were better than Houston last year. I don't think they're better than Golden State. Houston's window is shrinking. I don't know if they're trying to outlive the Warriors dynasty, because that might be gone next season with Durant maybe moving on. But moves need to be made.
But here's the thing. Do they have the capital to even do this anymore?
So Josh Richardson and a first-round pick, they could beat that, honestly. It might have to do with, moving on from Clint Capella. But if Minnesota wants to try to make a playoffs, you can do worse than Eric Gordon and PJ Tucker, or Eric Gordon, Gerald Green, and unprotected first, or a couple unprotected first in the future, because they're not going to be high draft picks or high draft capitals. There's worse deals out there. Like, Eric Gordon is equivalent to Josh Richardson. I don't think Josh Richardson is that much better than Eric Gordon. I don't think Eric Gordon is that much better than Josh Richardson. Like, Eric Gordon's going to come off the bench, and he's going to be a shoe-in for the 6th man of the year. He's gonna get 15 off the bench. If you start him, I wouldn't start him. I wouldn't play him that many minutes, because we've seen the way his body has held up throughout the years while him playing too many minutes with the Clippers and with New Orleans. So with him coming off the bench, he can erupt for 30 any given night. Hit 4 or 5 threes, get to the basket. Eric Gordon's great. Eric Gordon is a really good basketball player. He just needs to be used in spurts, and Houston has done it a lot.
I think you just talked yourself into Eric Gordon having a hell of a standout year.
Eric Gordon has had a standout year in Houston the past couple of years, and Eric Gordon's been great.
Now, when I really want to consider Houston a title contender, do you think they can put the demons of last year behind them and actually do something this year? Like, do you really think they can can they overthrow Golden State?
No. Their window to overthrowing Golden State was last year. Now with Trevor Ariza gone, Trevor Ariza is not a top 30 NBA guy that makes your team that much better. But Trevor Ariza with Houston makes them so much better than what they were, this year compared to last year. They also lost Luke Mbah a Moute. He's gone. Yes, he didn't play in the playoffs that much because of a shoulder injury, but he was a big cog in that machine. A healthy Luke Mabah, a Mute would have helped that team last year greatly. He's gone now. PJ Tucker's the starting four. They're a little bit shorter. The bench is shorter. Just another year, and I just don't think they're better. I don't think they're better than last year. I think Golden State is actually better this year than they were last year as well. And I just don't. I don't think anybody's going to stand up to Golden State.
And I think that's the perfect bridge to go to Golden State, our consensus #1 seed in the West. And, they're going for the three-peat now. Steph, Clay, Draymond, and KD. You really can't find a better core, but then they go and add DeMarcus Cousins. Boogie's not expected to come back until around January. He wants to get back on the court sooner than that, but this is probably the most embarrassment of riches that I've seen in sports in quite some time. And I just imagine that lineup, and now you add Boogie Cousins. No one in the NBA can stand up to that.
Yeah. Are they going to win 70 games? No.
No, they don't need to.
Yeah, they don't need to. They're going to cruise to 65 wins. They're going to win mid-60s. They might win 67, 68, something like that, crazy. And they're going to do it single-handedly. They're going, they're the quickest, 6-0 team. And when I say 6-0, like a 6-0 run in the game, they do that often. You hit a three, you come down, you hit a defensive stop, they hit another three, and they do that in less than 30 seconds, and you just don't know what hit them. They do that 4, 5, 6, 7 times a game, and you just get down by so much, and then they're just auditioning pieces. Damian Jones is going to get some run at center. Kayvon Looney's going to get some run. Jordan Bell is going to get some run. Quinn Cook, they're auditioning pieces to see who's going to be able to play on their playoff roster pretty much. And they're going to play Steph 30 minutes a night. He's going to be rested. He's going to play Clay, Dre 30 minutes a night. Iguodala is probably going to play half the season. He's going to be well rested for the playoffs. Livingston, KD, these guys, there's just so much talent on the court, and that talent has played with each other for so long and they know each other. They've won championships with each other. It's just what more can you say about Golden State that hasn't been done? We've beaten that horse to death, and they've beaten the NBA to death. Pretty much is what Golden State has done, and I don't see no challengers to Golden State. Toronto has a chance. Boston has a chance, but that's it. I don't see any other team challenging Golden State.
And we say chance that they could overthrow them, but just on paper alone, and I know the game's not played on paper, there's just, if Golden State turns it on, you have to hope that they beat themselves or have some misfires on their own, because talent-wise, no one else can measure up to them. And I think that's the scariest part. That
Steph is probably the third best player in the NBA. Kevin Durant is probably the second best player in the NBA. Klay Thompson is probably the second best shooting guard in the NBA. Draymond Green's a top 15 player, probably. There's just so much time. DeMarcus Cousins is healthy. If DeMarcus Cousins is healthy, the team is untouchable. DeMarcus Cousins is a top 5 center in the NBA. Achilles injuries are very scary. You do not come back from Achilles injury 100%. It just doesn't happen. And that stuff with DeMarcus Cousins, but there's just so much talent on this team. You're pretty much waiting them out, and this might be the last year of the window, because Durant and his free agency. I think Durant's moving on.
Well, with him, with Clay, with Draymond, there's going to be a lot of decisions that they're going to have to make here in the offseason. So I don't know what this is going to end in, but for right now, it's all about the three-peat, and I think I give it almost a 75% chance of happening.
I'm more leaning towards 90% three-peat.
It's hard. Obviously, winning a title is hard, and I know Golden State may look easy year after year, but last year was a weakened Cleveland team. Let's call it what it was. That wasn't a real strong contender to go up against Golden State. But even then, this team is on the verge of NBA immortality, and I think they realize it. They have one of the best coaches in the league. Everyone's bought into their system, and I think they're all in on making this run.
The time to beat them was last year, and it was Houston. Houston just missed. Houston just missed. That's what it was.
They literally missed.
Literally, figuratively, Houston missed, and that was the best shot. I don't think a team is going to get that shot this year. Pretty much, because Houston, they made Golden State play a different brand of basketball. They made Golden State ISO a lot more. They were able to run up and down with Golden State. Houston was able to hit threes and score with Golden State, and they were able to lock up too. And they had the star power to match up with Golden State star power, and it just they missed. That's it. They missed. Now Toronto, Boston, they have a chance, sure. But we're 6 months away from finding out if that chance is real. We're 8 months away from finding out if that chance is real.
And I don't even think so much that it's real. It's a matter of when this is going to happen, because barring injury, Golden State's going to be in the finals again. Like, that's just the title or the conclusion we've come to, is that they're going to beat this. Or, excuse me, they're going to beat up on the West again. LeBron, yeah, he came to the West. Woohoo. They beat him before in the past, and now they just get to do it sooner.
All right, so let's run through NBA awards. MVP, who do you have?
Okay, so before we do that, for the Western Conference, who's your surprise team?
Surprise team, in a bad way, San Antonio. They might fall off.
Okay, and your sleeper team?
Denver. Denver might be home court. Denver might get home court.
Okay, so MVP, you're going with Freaky Greeky.
Yep.
I'll say Anthony Davis. I think this is going to be the year we see multiple, not saying like he's out before. I think we start seeing a lot more 40-20s from him. I think that could be.
I think this might be LeBron James. This might be if he takes LA into a top 4 seed. He has the storyline. He's LeBron James. He's gonna get the story, new place, new scenery. There's a chance that LeBron does win MVP. And I think this is kind of his last chance in winning MVP, I would say. So LeBron, Giannis, and Anthony Davis would be my top 3. Dark horse, Kawhi.
I think that's actually a pretty good list, because if Kawhi can recapture who he was, I mean, again, that was one of the 10 best players in the NBA, and for Toronto, they could have something here if he decides to stay. Rookie of the year, I think I want to go with. I think DeAndre Ayton would be the easy one to say, but I feel like there's some good rookie depth to this. Depending on how he does, Trae Young, I know he's going to get all the chances to do so, but it might be in a losing effort. Anybody you got in mind?
Jaren Jackson is my pick. I think he goes like 16-8 with a block and a steal. He's going to hit a couple threes. I think Jaren Jackson is going to be my top choice. Like I said, I think Grayson Allen is going to be in the all-rookie team. DeAndre Ayton, I like. Marvin Bagley, I like. Trae Young, he's going to get the volume. I don't think he's going to have the efficiency numbers. Trae Young might average 20 points, but he might shoot 42% from the field because he's taking 20 shots a game and there's nobody else to shoot. I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with the Clippers. I like Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is going to be very good as well. Those are just the guys that, off the top of my head, I think are going to do really, really well. And Luka Doncic, I think those are guys that you would look out for.
All right, and the last thing I kind of want to cover is what's going to be one storyline that you're going to be paying attention to for this NBA season.
Who Jimmy Butler's getting traded to, and if that team is going to, if it's Houston, if Jimmy Butler goes to Houston, Houston has a chance of beating Golden State, depending on if they give up too much or not. If it's like Eric Gordon and like a couple of future first round picks, I think Golden State has some competition.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, that's the NBA in a nutshell. Glad to have the sport back. We have two teams that are 1-0, Golden State and Boston racking up wins tonight. It's shaping up to be another fun season for the NBA. Right now, they can't miss with the popularity, the players, the storylines. It's all here. It's right now the prime time for sports. NBA starting up. NFL's going on, baseball playoffs, NHL's up and going, college football, college basketball's not too far off. The NBA is right now in the prime spot to be the center of attention for all that. And I couldn't be more excited. I want to thank you guys for sitting with us through this preview episode. You can follow the show on Twitter at Bleach Breach Pod, on Twitter at Jonathan_R. Rob
_BPP.
We are also on Instagram at Bleacher Preacher Podcast as well. Be on the lookout for new content coming out through there. You can listen and stream the show through any podcast app. We're on the Apple iTunes Store, Google Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play. I think I just said that, but everybody but Spotify. So we're trying to get a little more universal here so you guys can check out and listen to the show. I want to thank you guys for listening, and we look forward to a great NBA season with you guys, and we'll be back real soon. Have a good night.
Peace.
Whew.